So the first topic I had in mind to discuss is how did y'all decide on where y'all want to go and like what y'all want to do?
Neil, you want to go first?
Okay, I'll start. So, I really so it all started in like 10th grade. I had the big thing in my head was I was always a science kid. Like I was always into science and
Hmm.
stuff. So I knew I'd take something in that area. So my whole thing was, do I become a doctor or an engineer? Because I really love bio, but at the same time, I was always I was like hands-on learning and all that was my kind of thing. So the biggest decision I had to take was, do I want to go to the medicine route or the engineering route? Because these two are the things I
Hmm.
really, really like. So I knew it would be
Okay.
one of these two. So how I decided was just like doing competitions. I think that's the best way you can figure out what you like. So in 10th, I
Hmm.
did a few competitions for space. I went to Delhi, represented Greenwood and stuff. So over there also, I spoke to a lot of people. I met a lot of other kids who had the same interest, and then I realized that this is my thing. That I really like doing this, and I want to do it in the future. So that was I think the thing I would tell everybody is to find out what you like is to experience everything. So if you want to choose between two career paths, you go for some course, do some research, talk to people, and then try deciding what fits you the best. So I think it's just through experience I found out, and I think that should work for everybody.
Okay. So
So
you
for
chose,
me, it
yeah.
was slightly different because I always knew I wanted to go into bio. My family was thinking medicine is a good choice for you, but I was never interested in medicine, more towards the research part of it. So
Hmm.
the weird thing for me was, as for college up till 12th grade, I was going to apply in India. And all of a sudden, like, transfer stuff happened, so I started applying to the US. But like, Neil put it in the best words possible. If you're confused on what to do, just talk to people. There's career counselors always available. Get to know about their experiences, because that's just how you will understand, okay, am I going through something similar? Am I going through something completely different? Does this relate to me? And do a couple of online courses. It can never hurt to just branch out and do new topics, and you'll just, by the end of it, either you'll stop midway through or you'll get through the end and be like, okay, I actually like this. That's, I didn't know that. So that's the best way you can figure out what you like.
Okay. So for both of you, was like the science route always like uh
Yeah,
always it?
Yeah,
for
for
me it was
sure. I
always
mean,
science. Yeah.
there was always science. Like that's for sure. I mean, it's like for me it was I didn't even think about doing anything else because I just found it really boring for me personally. So I didn't want to waste too much time in going and trying to discover something else which I already know that I would not like. So I spend that time to do something else which I actually like, which I actually enjoy. One more thing I want to add to Anjali, what she said is, addition to career counselors, you should also talk to students and seniors who are in the same who have taken up
Yeah.
the same field or who are in the same boat as you. So they will give you a very different outlook. So they will give you what a student will with like all the personal like the so you should also talk to find some students and seniors who you can reach out to. That will also really help. That's what helped me a lot.
Yeah, same for
Okay.
sure. Always talk to your seniors.
Okay. So you guys, so did you have it in mind once you decided that, oh, I want this major, whether I for sure want to stay in India or go abroad or both?
Okay, yeah. So weirdly enough, I did like entrance exam coaching in 11th, and I absolutely hated it. So I dropped it immediately, and I was like, you know what, I'll just study on my own. And up till 6 months before foreign applications opened up, I was going to apply in India only. And then all of a sudden, my dad got transferred. So in 6 months, I had to scramble up something akin to a resume and give all my standardized tests and stuff. So that's how I got to the whole foreign application stuff. I really wasn't sure. My family wasn't too keen on me going abroad, but then
Okay.
circumstances change. And honestly, it's, in a way, it's a preference, and it also depends on what you want to study. Because there are, if you want to do a particular course that's really well renowned in India, if you really want to do it in India, I think you should, because it's good here. Unless, for me, like I said, I didn't want to do medicine at all. So that gave me a very narrow road of opportunities I could do for applying to places in India, and those places were very hard to get into, which were also one of the reasons why I chose to apply abroad.
Okay. And
For me, it was a little different. I I knew that I would want to stay in India because of the opportunity and a lot of reasons. My parents would also they wanted me to do undergrad in India and postgrad abroad. But then at the same time, it's really important to keep your options open because in India, for engineering and medicine, it's all through the entrance exam. So if you mess up those, you are nowhere, right? So you
yeah.
have to keep options abroad. So for me, abroad was always a backup, and it was, I mean, I was always, it wasn't, I mean, I didn't apply to places which needed a lot of work. I straight up like rejected America because there's too much stuff. I couldn't handle the Indian entrance exam stuff and America. So I chose places where there wasn't too much work. And yeah, I mean, they're all still backups for me, and I have to still decide. So that's my scene.
Okay, so what were your first choices in term when you finally decided I want to do this and this is where I want to go? What was your first choice?
In terms of country or college?
Country, college, both.
So for me, it was the States because my parents are there. And my backup, like Neel said, always have a backup. Whether it's in that country or if it's another country, always have a backup, because you never know what's going to happen. Applications
Yeah.
are weird. The people accepting, the universities accepting them are weird sometimes. So always have a backup. So, and mine was Canada. And my first choice was Rice University in Texas because of the proximity to my parents.
Okay.
For me, it was, I mean, I didn't really have a first option because uh, for the Indian entrance exams, you have to, like, it all depends on your rank, right? So
Yeah.
there was no, I didn't have any place like, I will go here. So I didn't know, right? Just give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I, so through the entrances, I obviously wanted to go to an IIT. So that's still there. I mean, I still have to give my JEE advanced exam. That's in the end of September. But backups wise, I was looking at Netherlands the most. Like that was my top backup because I wanted to do aeronautical engineering.
Okay.
For me because it didn't require any, like, it wasn't too much work as the other applications like in America, but at the same time it was like a really good course. It was like the best outside America. So that was my main option abroad, and I also applied to UK, which was my second backup, and Singapore
Okay.
also was open for me, but I knew Singapore would like be very dicey because it's really tough. They only take 10
Yeah.
students internationally, and they take one Indian student. So Singapore was always really dicey, but Netherlands was my first option.
Okay. So, did you all get into your first choices, or like you were like, or was it
I
like?
didn't. I didn't. But the Rice University is a difficult place to get into. So I had applied to 11 places. 9 of them were in the US and 2 of them were in Canada. And despite the fact that Canada was my backup, that's where I'm going now. Because when the time came to decide which university I would say yes to, a lot of other factors started playing in. The main one being Canada versus the States. So I didn't get into my first choice. I wasn't too unhappy about it because in a way I expected it. It's a very difficult institution to get into.
Yeah.
So one bit of advice: if you don't get into your first choice, don't be disheartened. It sometimes doesn't work out. That's why you have the other places you've applied to. So don't
Okay.
ever be demotivated and feel like, okay, I wasn't good enough at this. That's not the case. It's a very competitive world, and sometimes it just doesn't work out, and that's perfectly all right.
Okay.
For me, I actually got I was waitlisted because of the application process. They they had to fill their local seats first, and then they move on to the
Yeah.
international. It's called TU Delft in Netherlands. So because of the
Okay.
pandemic, they short. I mean they moved the deadlines earlier or something like that, and then they said it's very tough to get international students this time. So they kind of gave preference to the EU kids, like European Union kids,
Yeah.
and then they I was still on the wait list, and then I had to, like, they asked me to withdraw because they couldn't wait for this long, so they asked me to apply again next year. And it's a 3-year course, so I didn't get in, but at the same time I
Mhm.
wasn't like rejected, so it was like a weird scene.
Yeah, I think
One thing
that's
Neel
the
said that struck me is like, never look at a college and be like, oh, it's really hard to get in, so I'm not going to apply. Never
yeah.
do that.
Yeah,
If you think you're good enough, go for it. There's no harm in
there's no
trying.
harm in trying. Exactly.
Worst things worst, you get rejected. That's it.
That's
So
it.
you
Yeah.
have your other options. Never be like, oh, this university accepts only 2 international students. What are the odds I'll get? None, so I'm
Yeah.
not going to apply. Never do that.
Okay. So, what would you say? Do you support going in education in India versus abroad? What would you say you consider better, or are you like
Very,
middle ground?
it's a very controversial topic.
Yeah.
um, I don't think I can comment on that, Neil.
See, it's a, yeah, as Anjali
Yeah.
said, it is a controversial topic, but at the same time, there's no harm in like taking a stand. So
Hmm.
I feel that it depends on the course, right?
Yes.
Yes,
And
for
also
sure.
depends on what you are as a person, right? So if you are a person who is not too comfortable living like 20 hours away from your parents, or
Mm-hmm.
if you have a family that needs you around, if you want to stay in India in the future, or if you want to venture out abroad and live abroad. So it all depends. It actually depends on a lot of factors, not just the college and the course. If you want to go to a Harvard or a Stanford or like a very good university in the US, and then you can settle down there after university and then do a postgrad there. So it all depends on the person, I would say, not just the college and the course. It depends on your personality, your family, and what you want to do in the future. If you want to stay back in your own country, or you want to venture out, and then that's what I would say.
Most
Okay.
people are worried about the cost of which it takes to
Yeah.
go, about the
I
number
mean,
of
that's
people who've told me, are you sure you want to do this? It's really expensive. Like, I know, I understand that because international fee is
It's
ludicrous in foreign
yeah.
institutions. It's, but having said that, some people do think it's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get scholarships, which is again rare, but if you do, it helps a lot. So it honestly depends on what you think and what your course like I said, I was lucky enough to know exactly what I want to do. Not many
Yeah.
people are sure about what field they want to get into, much less the course they want to do. But that's why it gets difficult to figure out if you want to stay in India or if you want to go abroad. So that brings us back to the first question: talk to people. Talk to both people. If you have family who've studied abroad, talk to them. Talk to the family who studied in India to compare the experiences they've had and then make a choice.
So, the other thing I wanted to ask is, what was your experience with standardized testing, if you've given any?
So, standardized testing is honestly the weirdest thing I've ever encountered, because you go into the paper, you write it, you think you've done well, and all of a sudden the curve is so bad or it's really good. It, because it honestly just depends on how the others do. So it kind of sucks because you're expecting, say, a 790 in math, you made maybe a one mistake, but the paper was super easy, so the curve is set really hard that you make one mistake and 30 points drop.
Yeah.
So I gave two SATs. One, the first one was in May, and the second one was in October. Not much of a difference. So that's one thing. The first thing people tell you is when you give the SAT the second time, you either have a very low increase, maybe 10 to 20 points, or you shoot up like crazy. There is no in between. You won't get maybe like 50 points or something like that. It either goes up a lot or it goes up very few. But one thing, I always thought standardized testing was the most important part of my application, and it took my counselor about 2 months to drill it into my head like, no, that's not the case. Standardized testing is not the most important part of your application. Everything else is first. Focus on your grades, your essays, your resume, then you can worry about your standardized testing. Having said that, please don't go into the exam center aiming for like a 1350. Don't do that. Do your best. The best advice I can give with this is practice. That's all you can do. It's only practice, because it just, this is a kind of paper that depends on the day. It depends how the paper is set. It depends on what you see on that day. It's either really difficult or really easy.
Yeah.
So I've never personally liked standardized testing, but it's a necessary thing. So just practice or do as many sample papers as you can, do as many questions, whether it's just 10 questions or 15 questions, do them with the full concentration you have. Don't mess around while you're on your phone or you're watching something and be like, oh, I'm bored, so let me just give these 10 questions. Don't do that. If you're going to practice, do a full paper or do a full section with your 100%.
Okay.
Having said that, the
For me, yeah.
subject standardized tests are super easy. At least for me, they were really easy because they were like 10th grade material. So, but don't get overconfident.
Yeah.
For me, I've taken the SAT only once, and it was like in the start of 11th grade where I wasn't really sure if I should apply abroad. So it was for me, you'll have like a very outsider's view of the whole scene. Like I
Yeah.
felt that, yeah, without practice, it's not easy at all. You have to practice for sure.
Honestly, if
Okay.
you're doing ISC math and you're good at it, most of the math, both those math sections should be fairly easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Save maybe 2 or 3 questions. English is where I think I've seen most Indian kids struggle with.
So next thing I wanted to ask is how much help did you all get from external sources like teachers, counselors, parents, friends?
I
Yeah,
have an
Anjali, I think you
external
should.
counselor. She is the reason I'm going to college. She's a wonderful woman. So I most kids I knew had some form of external help, and I really needed one because I didn't have my parents at my beck and call to be like, okay, what do I do now? Is this essay okay? Because time difference was a huge issue, so they were like, you know what, let's just get you a counselor. And I got her immediately after we realized I would be applying abroad. And your counselor doesn't do your application as much as guide you. So she would review my essays and she would so patient with me because some of these essays you go through many drafts of them. You never submit the first one you write.
Yeah.
I remember my first Common App essay was 900 words long. The limit is 650. So we sat for a month, went through about 11 drafts and finally cut it down. So she was the most patient woman and I owe her everything. So, yeah.
For me, I used the school counselor's help. Ashima ma'am, she was really. I
Yeah.
mean, I didn't have any applications which required too many essays and stuff. I had to just write an SOP for UK, and Delft, like my Netherlands option, they required like two essays. So um, I used yeah. So Ashima ma'am was really helpful. She helped me do all the drafts and stuff. Problem for me.
Yeah,
So
that's the
would
thing
you?
with them. If you're applying to the US, you will write at least 20 essays.
Mhm.
That's a bare minimum. I've written at least 35 to 40. So
Yeah. So would you say an external counselor helps, like, helps and like a lot of people I know, especially in 12th grade, they're really debating like, should I get an external counselor? I know it's expensive. I don't know if it's worth it. So what do
I'll
you
tell
think
you,
about?
it is expensive. It is,
Hmm.
but for me, it was 100% worth it because she was available, and that's the thing. She wasn't a part of a huge institution or something. She had her own thing, so I could call her up at any time. I just shoot her a text. I'm like, "Ma'am, I just need to talk to you about this one particular prompt which I'm not getting," and she just nudged me. We just like discuss ideas and stuff like that, and she helped me with everything, not just essays. Whenever I remember once I panicked for some reason, and that'll happen a lot. I just want you to know that's gonna happen a lot. And I was like, I'm not gonna get in. My application isn't good enough. And she immediately called me and she's like, no, why are you saying that? So my external counselor helped me with almost everything. It started off with her giving me a list of universities saying, okay, I think you will like these. And I'm a picky person. So we went through several lists until she figured out exactly what I liked. And she gave me a set of like 15 to 20 universities. And I was like, yeah, these are the places I want to apply to. Your external counselor should be someone you can be absolutely frank and honest with, because and like that's the thing, again, personal preference. If
Yeah.
their application doesn't weigh too much on the essays, you don't need to, I guess, because some people think they can write their own essays, which you probably can, but it's always better to get an outsider's view on it, an outsider who knows absolutely nothing about you and is looking at it from a perspective of like someone who's going to be reading your essays in college.
Mhm.
So they'll do that, and then they'll get to know you, and then they'll figure out your style of writing, and they know exactly how to correct it, because your external counselors would have seen years worth of essays, several hundred essays, so they know exactly what the college is looking for, because they can
Okay.
be very specific sometimes. So for
Yeah.
me, it was completely worth it. But like I said,
So
I
yeah.
didn't have my parents to call me whenever I needed to. I needed someone to go over my essays. So for me, it was completely worth the money. And she is so sweet. Like, if you, what's a better word for vibe? If you get along with your counselor, it's the best experience you'll have.
Yeah, I wanted to add to what Anjali said. Yeah, it actually depends on your where you want to apply to. That's one
Yeah.
important thing. Like what she said, if you don't have too many essays, if you don't have a pretty, like if you have an application which doesn't look at the essays too much, then there's not a big reason for you to get an external counselor. Like if, for me, like I would never have needed an external counselor because it was a pretty simple affair for me. So again, depends on where you're applying to. I would say to people who are thinking about it, just to look at what your university wants. Like if you want essays, if they grade essay, if the like if they look at essays as something which are more important than scores, then, and if you're not that good at writing essay, then it's better to get help, right? Because a school counselor won't exactly like, yeah, what you said, you can't just call up at the middle of the night and be like, I need help. They have, like, it's a very formal
Yeah.
relationship with the school counselor. So
Mhm.
if you think that your English is not that good, you're not too good at essays, then it's a good idea to get help from anywhere else, because this is a pretty important stage in your life. um I mean, you're going to college, and you're anyway going to spend money on college, right? So
Exactly. Exactly.
if you spend a little more over here, it's not going to
So
hurt.
what would you describe your entire process as? Like, the from the point you decided on your college to you got in, was it like very uncertain, very, very stressful? I'm pretty sure it was, but like,
Yeah, I don't want to
what was
sugarcoat it. It
something?
was so stressful. Like, Neil can like agree with me. He'd see me in school and he'd be
Yeah,
like,
for
"Are
sure.
you okay? Have you slept?" Because dude, I think I would have gone at least maybe like several hours just staring at my laptop because I would not be able to write my essays. Nothing. My thought process was
that
blank.
that happens for sure. I mean, with essays especially, you can spend hours not getting anything done. Like,
And
that's the thing
when
about
you do
essays.
get something done, you won't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was the most stressful 6 months I had ever like faced, and I'm not even in college yet, and I know there's going to be more stressful experiences. But as a high school student, while
Yeah.
simultaneously managing ISC, student council, this, that, everything, and doing this at the same time, which is the one reason I'll be like, listen, figure out which country you want, because you are not going to be able to do separate applications at the same time while managing school. That is the
Yeah,
first advice.
that's yeah.
Any of my juniors have asked me, I'm confused about the country. The first thing I say is, listen, you're in a difficult curriculum. Figure that out as soon as you can, because otherwise it's going to be too difficult for you. So
Yeah,
I
I mean,
had luck.
yeah.
Yeah, I had the support I needed. And
Mhm.
every week my counselor would call me up and she's like, how are we doing today? Let's take a break, because we've been working at this for a week. We need to take a break, and we just talk about anything except college. So expect your friends to go through these phases where all they can talk about is college, because that's just what we did.
Yeah, I mean, it does get to you.
Mhm.
If your friends are just talking about college and you're just like, what am I doing? So it will get to you. It's got to me. I mean, in my batch, at least, there are people who have been,
Oh yeah.
like, yeah, we've been affected. So I mean, it's not a big deal. It's normal. So yeah, to add to what Anjali was saying, for me, I was doing engineering, like the Indian entrance
Mhm.
exams and ISC and like my foreign application. So it was a very different experience for me, because I had three different paths to follow, right? Do I do ISC, do I do JEE, or do I do my application? So I was focusing mostly on JEE, and that's a different story. Like, that's stressful in its nature because of the competition and the syllabus and stuff. So um, I think what I would like to say here is to actually figure out your path, right? And don't freak out too much about what do I do? Do I do ISC? Do I do work on my application? Do I do something else? So you be like plan it out. Like, okay, these days I will focus on my application. These days I'll do ISC, something like that. Like, focus it out.
Mhm.
Sorry, plan it out, and then just be focused on what you're doing that week. Let's say I'm doing this week. I'm just going to focus on my ISC. Okay, I'll just study every day. I won't think about too much. I won't think too much about my college application or something. So the next week you do this. So if you plan it out, then it's fine. It probably won't get too stressful. But yeah, planning is key.
Yeah, very much.
Mm.
Like for foreign applications, especially, I submitted most of mine by the early action deadline, which was November. So after
Okay.
that, I was like, okay, I'm done with this because pre-boards were coming up in December,
Mm-hmm.
and that's another headache you need to deal with because you cannot use the excuse of college to not do work. That doesn't work. You cannot say, oh, I was working on my applications as an excuse for your bad grades or you not being proactive in class or something like that. It doesn't,
Like
like, the
yeah,
teachers might be sympathetic, but it's not okay.
Yeah.
teachers have straight up told me that please focus on ISC, do not focus on college. Like I've
Yikes.
gotten it a lot. Because for me, it's with JE, right? So they just said straight up to my face, stop JE and do school works. And I was a pretty difficult decision, but I chose what I wanted to do. I focus on my college stuff because like JE is like really tough. If you lose your momentum in between, it
Oh yeah.
like messes up your whole year. So uh, I used to do ISE like whenever I was free and like not too much, but yeah, I've got that a lot from teachers, and you will get that this year.
You will.
The teachers will come to you and say, "Please focus on schoolwork." For them, they need you to get good grades, right? Like that's what the
The
school
number
wants.
of
So
times I've seen Neel freak out,
yeah.
so many before papers, exams, and stuff, he'll be like, dude, I
Oh
don't know
god,
anything. I'm gonna
and it's
fail
normal.
this
It's normal.
paper.
Yeah.
But
And with
like,
ISC especially, a lot of my friends who are applying abroad, they all study like the day before.
I will add to that and say you will lose several hours of sleep. That will
Yeah.
happen because you will stay up studying, you'll stay up writing essays, you'll stay up practicing tests and stuff. You will lose sleep. That's going to happen. Again, do not use that as an excuse to skip out on
Yeah.
schoolwork because you
Mm-hmm.
will get in trouble for it. You will inevitably get in trouble because you can't use that as an excuse. It's not okay.
Yeah.
So once I applied most of my stuff before November, I was like, fine, I'm done with this. Peaceful. Now I can focus on school because pre-boards were important for us because they go as our mid-year report, like our mid-year report
Yeah.
cards.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I need to do well in pre-boards. And the number of people who've come up to me and are like, hey, dude, you already got into college because some of the acceptances come out early, like
Yeah.
first week of December. And they're like, you already got into college. Why are you worrying about your pre-boards? No, that's not. Oh, I'm not like, no. I'm going to do well in school as well. Just because I've already applied to college does not ignore the fact that I still have these exams to give. And they're obviously going to help me only for the boards.
Yeah.
So I would suggest if you're applying abroad, apply early so that you're just done with everything. Also the fact
Yeah.
that it's early action, you get in, but like
Mm-hmm.
you're done. It's over. So like yeah.
So I want to add to what Anjali said. Your school marks are actually important. Like they will. I mean, see for our grade, right? Like our boards,
Mm-hmm.
our result came really late. So some universities
Yeah.
just straight up said, "Give me your pre-board marks." Like
11th and 12th pay attention to, specifically more 12th, 11th finals, but it's over. But 12th,
Yeah.
please pay attention to all your papers. They are important no matter what anyone says, no matter what anyone is like, you've already gotten in, you've already applied, what's the point? Just ditch it, don't stress. No, do put, like, give your whole heart to it, write it, do the best you can because at the end of the day, it's your marks. You're not doing this for someone else.
Yeah.
one more thing is predicted grades, right?
Oh,
There is
Mm-hmm.
they just don't scam your grades and give you whatever they think, right? It's not allowed. There's a
Yeah.
pretty standard procedure for that, and they calculate your predicted grades based on what you are
exactly.
scoring in the exam.
Yeah.
So if your scores are bad, sorry, if you put your
You're
marks
not.
in that formula was whatever they have, you will get a low predicted score. And many places do take predicted scores. Like UK takes predicted
Mm-hmm.
scores in your first draft, like your first
Yeah.
round. So that's another way. That's another reason you should do well in your state
Yeah, you
exams.
can't be scoring 20 on 70 and
Yeah,
expect your counselor to submit a 60 or a 50. That's
yeah.
not how this
They will
works.
not do that
You need
because
to
they
work for it.
Yeah. Okay, so the next thing is probably how has COVID affected your whole college experience or test
Neil?
writing?
yeah, straight up for me, if everything went to plan, my JE Advance, the actual IIT entrance would be over by May 15th,
Hmm.
right?
Mm.
And that result would come in about 2 weeks. So at the end of May, I would have known if I got into an IIT, NIT in India or BITS, and I would have had time to accept my Netherlands application. So I mean, I would have had time to like say yes to Netherlands if I don't get in India, or say no to Netherlands if I get in India. So that was like the whole plan for me. But then yeah, the whole thing happened. But you can't really complain
You
because
can't.
I mean I feel
Yeah.
that our problems are not as bad as what other
Oh
people are
yeah.
facing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I felt that I mean it was hard to accept. It took like a day, but then after that I was like, it's okay. I mean, it's not a big deal. It's not
We're
the
in a
end of the
place
world.
of privilege right now. We
Yeah,
Yeah.
have a
exactly,
Right.
house, we have food,
exactly,
water, internet connection, smartphones. There's nothing more we can ask for. Like, I could
exactly. So
complain all day and be like, yeah, if it went for COVID, I would have moved into campus today. I haven't moved into campus, much less gotten my visa, but it happens. It's just,
Yeah.
so stop complaining. You're in a place of privilege.
yeah,
Not everybody can afford that privilege. So I get it. It sucks. You're missing out on your final year of school. You're missing out on your freshman year of college, but deal with it. Don't complain.
yeah. But yeah, it's been tough. And the thing is, what you should remember is it's been tough for everybody, right? It's
Exactly.
not for me and you. People like me, there's so many more people like me who have their whole plans have gone. I know people who are gonna take a drop year because all of their plans are gone. Like they cannot do anything. They have no other options left. All their options have gone messed up because of COVID. Deadlines have been missed, and then the marks have come different times. So there are people who are taking a whole gap year because of COVID. So there, and the thing is, everybody's in it together. Like all of us
Mm-hmm.
have problems like this, but at the same time, you have to just deal with it, like what she said, what Anjali
Exactly.
said. So just
Yeah.
deal with it, go with the flow. That's what I tell everybody who asks me what I'm doing.
Like, I'm not the only international student who's facing the time zone issue. I'm going to
Yeah.
be up till like 5:30 a.m. for my classes starting from 9:30, but I'm not the only person in that boat.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is. So many people who haven't been able to move to campus, and the people who have, good for them, but there are still people who haven't, people still stuck in India who are going to be starting college. Some already started, and they're going to be up all night, and it's going to you're going to have so many issues because group assignments are going to be done, but you're in different time zones, and all of that's going to happen. But like he said, we're all in the same boat. Just,
Yeah.
you will figure it out. You will figure it out as
Mm-hmm.
college starts. But you have a house, like I said, you have all the privilege you can get right now, so you shouldn't be complaining.
Yeah. Okay, so the last thing, since you mentioned gap year, what do you think about a gap year?
Okay, I would want to answer that because I've been thinking about it. But then, see, the thing is, again, for me, it all depends on your options, your backup. Keep it as an option because you never. I mean, there's no harm in losing out 1 year, right?
Yeah.
Uh, you might get into like a pretty like not a great college this year, but if you spend some more time, you can get into a much better place. One more thing is the year for us Indian students is almost over, right? September end is JEE Advance, and we'll get to know our scores in about October.
Mm-hmm.
So the next academic year for Indian engineering thing, it starts in Jan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jan is the next JE. So it's not a big deal, I feel, because if you haven't done too well in your in the application this year, you haven't got where you want to go. There's no harm in like taking an extra year. And I know people who are doing it, so they're pretty chilled out about it. And then one more thing is people will keep telling you that, oh my god, you're taking a gap year. You'll be like a
Mm,
in society, you'll be like, oh my god, this kid took a gap year. What is his parents doing? What is like?
Yeah.
You will be blacklisted in society. But honestly, do not
Like,
like. It
yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
really
don't
don't care.
matter
bother.
because it's your life, man. You want to go where
Yeah.
you're going. You take an extra 6 months to decide where you're going, and you actually get in there. That joy in the end, which you get, is like nothing will
Yeah.
come close to that. So it's your decision. But like think about it, right? Don't just say I'm going to take a gap year and I'm just going to chill out the whole year. That is
Yeah. No.
totally wrong because you're taking a gap year for a reason, right? You're taking gap year
Mm-hmm.
for you to get somewhere. So you'll have to do those things to get to that place. So if you plan it out properly, you're doing courses, you're doing social work, you're building up your resume. So if you're doing stuff like that, then it's really helpful because these things wouldn't have been possible when you were in school.
Yeah.
So it actually depends on where you want to go and what the scene is with your current colleges. Like if you're not too happy with what you got this year, so what plan for me is, um, what my parents have also suggested is if I don't get in anywhere, like worst case scenario, I go to my
Yeah.
worst, like my backup in India, because abroad is not like
Yeah.
a worst case, right? So if I go to so somewhere in India, I do
Mhm.
1 year till about like Jan to April. The next year's applications will start and we'll get to know. So I'll do till then, and then if I get into a good, get into a better place abroad, I can like
Just
think
transfer.
about transferring or leaving the current place and going there. So that's one option. Yeah, that's what one of my other friends is also doing the same thing. Yeah, and then if you don't get into into your abroad options next year as well, then you just continue and you wouldn't lose a year, right? You still be in the college, you'll finish 1 year, and then you have 3 years left. So that's what like one of my worst case scenarios, that's what I'm going to do.
I remember when colleges started declaring that their semester is going to be online, and when UBC also did that. I remember so many people just suddenly being like, "Okay, I'm taking a gap year," and I was like, "Should I do that too?" Because when the people around you are choosing to do
Yeah.
that, you'll automatically be like, "Is doing first year online worth it?" Because you will hear this from everyone, kids, parents, adults, everyone. Your first year is going to be the best experience of your life. It's like a broken record. You will hear it all the time. But my orientation just ended like yesterday. And honestly, it wasn't that bad. It was all online, and it's a little awkward because
Mhm.
you're video calling them on Zoom for the first time. You haven't even texted these guys before. And all of a sudden, you're just on a Zoom call with them. It will be awkward. It's difficult to make friends online. But that's not, it's like, that's not an excuse to take a gap year. If you actually want to do something, you want to better yourself, build up for your resume, then go ahead and do it. If you have no solid plan,
Yeah,
most people wouldn't advise taking a gap year. The whole it looks bad on your record, la 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 la. Don't even listen to that. If you think you need it, do it, because at the end of the day, you're the most important part in this equation, not anyone else.
Yeah.
yeah, and the thing is, people say that people who take gap years are like they're they're not too successful, they didn't get
Yeah.
anywhere, they just wasted 1 year of their life. But I know there are people who have gone to like an Ivy League taking one gap year. So there are success stories there. Just don't think about like,
Exactly.
am I the only one? Am I like, is this right for me and all? So think about it. But also one more thing is talk to people. If you need help, so if you're
Reach
taking a
out.
gap year, then the best option is reaching out to people who've taken a gap year and who've like got into a better place after 1 year.
Okay.
So, and also if you take a gap year and then you have to do your application, your essays, everything once again, then
Yeah.
school will not help you because you're not a part of school anymore. So you'll, in
Mhm.
that case, you'll need an external counselor.
People
Okay.
underestimate how much work you can get done in a year. There is a
Yeah.
lot of stuff you can get done in a year. So
Yeah, for
don't
sure.
listen to the people who are like, "Oh, you're not, so you weren't good enough." Because
Yeah. Like,
that's the message you get when you take a gap
Yeah,
year. I was
very
not
true.
good enough for this.
Very true.
That's a complete lie. That's not true at all. It just shows that you didn't have enough time. That's all it is. And there's nothing wrong in wanting more time if it's going to better yourself. So if you're taking a gap year, have a solid plan to do it.
The
And talk,
solid
like
plan
Neil said,
is
talk to
very key.
people.
Yeah, because if you don't
yeah.
have a plan, you'll just be like, if you take a year and you just say, okay, I'll just think about like procrastinating. If you just
Yeah.
keep pushing your deadline, say, I'll do this after 1 week, I'll do after 2 week, I have a whole year. That is really bad because you're
Yeah,
wasting time. Every day is precious. Like with engineering and like JE and stuff, every day is precious. Every hour of your study is precious, right? So
Yeah.
if you take a gap year, make sure you make the most of it. Like you're not going to get an opportunity again. Taking 2 years is not
It's,
is
yeah.
recommended
not an
because
option.
like one more way to look at it is if you take like a year, your
Mhm.
competition increases because there'll be more people
Yeah.
applying to the same course after 1 year, right? So that's one thing to do. So if you take a gap year and then you just waste your time and then like you have a, let's say you have a worse application than your year before, then you're going to go
Yeah.
nowhere. Like you'll end up nowhere. So
Procrastination is the worst thing. You'll waste at least 3 months being like, "Oh, I'll do it. I'll
Yeah.
make."
yeah,
You'll waste 3 months getting a plan if you don't have
yeah.
one. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you're doing a
That's
gap
true.
year, please know what
But
you're
in
doing.
India, it's like year 13, as they say, is actually a pretty common thing for the entrances. Like people who are I know a lot of my friends from like different courses and stuff. They've taken like a gap year just to study for their entrance
Gee.
exams
Mhm.
for JEE and NEET. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a weird scene because they really want to go to that like to an IIT or like through the entrances, and they don't really have the capacity to go abroad. So if you're taking a gap year, make sure that next year that I will have the cash to go abroad, right? People,
Mhm.
I mean, with COVID and stuff, you never know. Like,
You
Yeah.
don't.
I mean, people who have businesses, people who are like, you never know what can happen overnight with COVID, right? You never know if it's going to
Yeah.
get worse, better. So make sure that like you have the funds. That's another important thing because I've seen people, not who are applying abroad, but they don't have the fund. They took a gap year last year. Like this was their gap year, but then with COVID, they're going probably going to take one more gap year because they don't have the cash to like go to college. So so that's another important thing, funds. But at the same time, overall I think that it all depends on what you want to do and how motivated you are to do it, because if you're not motivated then you're just going to waste time.
One thing I can add to that is I don't know if it happens in India. So for the US, if there's two kinds of gap years, it's not a gap year per se. So one thing is drop the entire thing and just apply next year, or you can do something called deferring your
Yeah.
application. Is when you just go to spring semester in Jan. So your seat is reserved, I think, and you just choose to take a gap of 6 months and then go. That's I think a lot of people are doing that right now
Yeah.
because you don't have to withdraw your application completely. You can just go again. You can go in spring, your application still stands. So that's a thing very common in the US. Not in the US per se, it's a thing people do with their US applications right now, especially.
Mhm. I think I've heard many applications where Stanford, Harvard, etc. actually tell you, encourage you to take a gap year and go travel or do something that you like, and it actually ends up being something better.
It's a
You,
positive thing because you
Yeah,
yeah,
spent so long studying
you're just studying,
applications,
studying,
this, that.
studying.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's why people after undergraduate take a few years off if they want
yeah,
to do masters or something, being like, you don't want to only keep studying for what, like 15, 20 years of your life.
yeah,
more more than that actually. So it's a positive thing. If it's going to help you, please go ahead and do it,
yeah.
because like I said, you're the most important person in this equation. If you are not sound mentally and physically, you're not going to be able to get to what you want. So if you need that time to yourself, there's nothing wrong in taking it.
Mhm.
One more thing I would like to add to that is, let's say you're taking a gap year this year and like you're gonna say, I'm gonna like for, let's say if I get in your grade, like I'm gonna take a gap year, let's see what happens next year. So that's bad. No, sorry, not that. That's not bad. That's weird because kids will say, okay, I'm taking a gap year, and they'll just be complacent in their current year. Like you just say, okay, I'll take a gap year next year, but I won't focus on my application right now. That
Yeah,
doesn't
Mm.
make
true.
sense. The
Yeah,
whole reason you're taking a gap year is to apply twice. Like if you're lucky the first time, then that's good. If you're not, then you have one more year. So if you have decided early on that you're going to take a gap year, don't waste your time right now as well. Like
yeah.
I know one of my friends who decided to take a gap year like in July or August of 2019. So
Hmm.
he was like that's the thing. So he didn't waste his last in the year 12 of school because he knew he's going to take a gap year. So if you've decided early on, don't waste your current year as well. Like don't just say,
Okay.
okay, I'll just go next year and stuff. Don't waste your current year.
I think that's important as well.
Yeah.
Okay. How does it feel not being in Greenwood anymore? Because I think you guys have been there for a while.
Neil's gonna start crying.
I I watched the entire Teachers' Day today, and I was like, oh my god, I missed last year.
You
I
watched
really
all
really
the
miss
Bacha Loka performance and
everything I
everything.
watched. Everything
Everything.
I watched. So yeah, that just says a lot. So my
Yeah.
plan for tonight is to call all my teachers and like wish them a happy Teachers' Day.
Yeah,
I'm
same.
super attached to the school. I still use my school email ID and like send random mails to people to see what they're doing. I sent one to Anjali a few days ago,
Ugh.
on our council group. So yeah, I'm super attached to the school. I can't believe it that I mean I'm out of school and I'm not in
It's
college yet.
weird, right? It's
It's a
weird.
yeah, it's really weird. It's like this. You're no like for me, I don't even know college and school is over a long time ago, and you're just like in this weird scene where you're nowhere. Like you don't identify as a college student, but at the same time you don't
Okay, I
identify as a
don't have to deal with
school
that.
kid. You're just like, okay, I'm just like I'm just a 17-year-old
There in the middle.
confused. in the middle of like two weird scenes. So yeah, I really miss school. It's the best time of your life. But then
It is.
I would really like to tell your batch to not feel. I mean, it is sad that you don't have you're not able to spend your last year in school. But then yeah, see, there's no other option available. Like there is nothing else that can be done right now. So you just have to go with a happy heart and just be happy that you have this opportunity to at least to do online school. One good way to look at it is you'll actually be able to save all these memories. Like you have video recordings of each class. So if something funny happens, you'll have
Yeah.
those videos the rest of your life. And we don't have that, right? So that's one good thing for you. So yeah, just don't
Yeah.
feel bad. It is a tough scene, but then at the same time, things will get better for sure. So yeah, just be positive about all of the situation, and then yeah, just try having a good time in online school. It is tough, but then yeah, just if you have a positive outlook, it'll be easier for you. Now, Anjali,
Like,
what would you say?
I've been in Greenwood for 14 years. And it's weird not being in Greenwood anymore because it was this little bubble you were in and
Yeah.
you had no idea how it felt like to move places, to move. People have moved countries, continents, and I haven't even moved schools. So it's weird. And I remember I was talking to my mom about it, and she's like, "You're gonna feel really weird because for the first time in your life, you're gonna be moving complete continents, much less just schools." And most people will disagree when I say this, but Greenwood was the best time of my life, and I
Obviously.
don't care what anyone else has to say about it. I had fun. It's given me some of my best memories. Like, I remember, dude, Neil, do you remember when our auditorium was made of cement
Yeah, obviously.
and
Like we
there
used
was
to sit on the
nothing there?
we used to sit on the
on
stairs in
on the
assembly.
stairs. So we were in this school when it had what, maybe 1,000 kids,
Less
maybe
than that.
less, way less than that. And now it makes me happy it's grown into a big institution and that there's like stuff like this is happening. I will miss it so much. I was literally going through all of our old pictures today from Teachers Day and all the older ones. I remember I pulled out a file with all my class
Class
photos
photos.
from grade 1 onwards, and I was like, oh man, I'm totally gonna miss this because it's been my entire life as I know it. I have no other experiences outside Greenwood, and that sounds kind of depressing, but it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not exactly. People keep saying, "Oh, you're gonna have such a tough time. You won't know how to make new friends in like a new area." But honestly, dude, I've had like the best time of my life being in one school for my whole life. Like
Exactly. I've made these friends who've been with
yeah, and
me
we've
for so
all
many
grown up
years.
together. I've seen Anjali as like a small kid, and she's seen me as a small kid as well. So we've
Excuse
we've
me.
grown with the school also, right? Like we've seen the school grow up. So we are very attached to the school. Like us, we're like the 13, 14-year-old Greenwoodites. So people who are
Yeah.
newer, they're like, wait, what is he? Why is he so
Yeah.
sad?
Exactly,
People keep
Yeah.
asking me
exactly.
like, how are you sad? I'm like, dude, what are you saying? Like I was really sad after grad and stuff. More than sad, I was really
Yeah.
happy that, oh my god, like that finally like this day has come that we're passing out of junior high. So
I thought I
yeah,
would
we're
cry
really
during
attached.
grad. I really
But
thought I
yeah, I
would.
don't think anybody cried. I mean, people were pretty. I don't.
It hit me when I had my TC in my hand. Until then, I was completely all that. I was like, yeah, school's over, boards are over, not gonna see these guys again. Then I went to school to get my TC, and it says Anjali Parthasarathy from 5th of June 2006 to
Yeah,
XYZ 2020. And I was like, oh my god, it's been 14 years. And it passed by so quickly. So regardless of what anyone says, Neil and I will defend this school because it
for
has its
sure,
Yeah.
flaws. It has
for
its flaws. I
sure.
get it. Everything has their own
Yeah,
flaws, but I'm not gonna let one bad experience overrule the 14 years I've had over there. I'll will miss this so much. I went to school the other day just because I wanted to see it. And like my friend was going to, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna hop on the bandwagon, and I'm also gonna go. We walked across the halls and stuff, and it was so quiet, and we were like, I'm not gonna see this again. And it's really sad to know that, but it's a stepping stone. And like he said, everything for you is online, and it sucks having your last year of school online. Especially, I'm sure there are students like us who've been in the school for 14 years
Yeah.
and wanted their final year to be in person, but it happens. just have a positive, like he said, be positive about it, and hopefully you guys get to go to school before wherever you go,
Mhm.
and cherish these memories, because college is going to be very different. The friends you make, the type of circles you start fitting in are going to be extremely different. So cherish your high school memories because they'll stay with you throughout your life. It shapes you as a person, your personality as a person. It shapes you. So yeah, that's all I have to say for it.
Yeah, one more thing I would like to say is like your school friends right now. For me, I don't have any college friends. Like I'm still like in between, right? So
Yeah.
for me, I really like talking to my school friends. I'm still in touch with every single one of these guys, and you know you're gonna drift apart. Like it's natural, right? You're gonna go to different places. You're gonna meet new people, but at the same time, one day out of the blue, after like 20 years, you just bump into your school friends. You will have the best time of your life. Like you'll go through all your old memories and what all like experiences in school and stuff. So think about that as well. Be like if you're in your friend circle and stuff, be like, okay, in 25 years we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. And if you just meet
Stick
somebody
to
after
it.
like 20
Stick to
years,
it. If you make
try
that
sticking to
pact,
it. You have to, if you stick to it, it will, I will guarantee you, you will have an amazing time afterwards.
you will.
So
Because
yeah.
these are people who know you. So it doesn't matter how many years after they meet you, you're still going to have that same chemistry, that same connection, and you'll have the time of your life. So try. It will be difficult. I know you're all going to be like, I'm going to stay friends with that, 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 but you will drift apart. It will happen because it's just how it is. Because when once some of your friends may go abroad, time zones are going to be a problem. They won't have spend enough time talking to you, but you're still one text away. So even if it's just dropping a hey, how you doing, just wanted to check in on you like once a week, that's everything. It's the
Yeah.
small things like that that count. So try to keep in touch with as much as them, as many of them as possible, and you will like it because your high school friends will stay with you.
And you've grown up with them, right? You have seen all their tantrums. They've seen you grow up from this. Like I've like for me, I had like my growth spurt in like eighth grade, and then
Oh
all
my
my friends in
god,
seventh are like, "Oh my god, you're such a shorty," and then in eighth, I'm like towering over
I
everybody else, and
remember
just like,
this.
oh, like Anjali, like the prime example. So yeah, so they've seen you grow all through the years, and they've grown with you like throughout
They've seen you
the
at your worst. I feel like your high
exactly.
school friends have seen you at your absolute worst. It doesn't get any better than that. So for
So
someone who's
yeah.
seen you at your lowest moment, there's no way you're gonna lose that kind of chemistry in between you guys.
Yeah.
And
I
yeah,
think
you
that's
will drift, but then what you said, like the small things matter. One text matters, just one call, you speak for like 5 minutes, that will make a difference.